watch this be the day that I lose my side view mirror on that pole. The first time I saw my name in the liner notes for an album was Man of Steel, which was the first project that I worked on, and my name was spelled incorrectly. So, so I was Taurees. So that's what that experience was like. It was like, oh, yeah, all right, it's gonna be like this. I was born in Maryland, and then basically as soon as I was old enough to be on a plane, flew to Pakistan. Unlike a lot of typical Pakistani families, like one thing that was very much a part of my upbringing was that I was allowed to decide what I was going to do. There was certainly like some elements of persuasion to at least do this, but also do something that that's a little more applicable, that you can that you can pay the bills with more of a guarantee. When I went to college, my first year of college, I didn't go to music school. I went to just like a liberal arts college that had an audio engineering program, and I was going to major in audio engineering and minor in business management. And a year later, I left that school and, eventually went to Berkeley.
Taurees Habib.
Somebody I had been to college with was interning at Remote Control Productions, which is Hans Zimmer's company. She was in earshot of him and heard him say something like, man, every resume that I have from our intern pool is someone wants to be a composer and this is an engineering job. And that person that I knew went, oh, my friend Taurees is an engineer and he's looking for a new job right now. And so I got that job interview through that. And I think all I had to do was prove that I wasn't an asshole and knew what I was talking about. And I did at least half of both of those, I think.
If you haven't listened to this, you should listen to it now, like today.
Got a bunch of gear in here. Beautiful Moog synthesizer here, and then another synthesizer here. All the work that I do these days usually happens at this desk. I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, it would be nice to get recognized, I guess, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, if somebody came up to me and was like, oh my God, you're that guy who does sampling for Hans, I would be afraid. Because the amount of obsession it would take to figure that out, and then also remember my face, yeah, I hope I have my running shoes on that day. I'll say that. So on your right is the studio. So from this red brick building all the way to the building that looks like a cheese grater is remote control cameras. If you don't notice the score, then it's doing its job. Sometimes you notice the score because it's fucking awesome. What I do makes no sense to show the director until Hans has done what he's going to do with it. With sampling, it's very repetitive. I mean, it's literally like, if you were to build a sampled piano, you've literally recorded every single key on that piano keyboard. Then you've chopped each of those notes into single files and are basically, when you hit your keyboard connected to a computer, it's playing that audio file. Every key on a MIDI controller, which is a piano keyboard that's hooked up to your computer, is basically just a playback button. And so you're helping it decide, when I press this button, what does it play? Or with a certain, amount of pressure, it plays something else. What am I doing?
You press the harder you're pressing it.
Yeah, so this not only registers with, this not only will register how you when you initially hit it, which is what most of the instruments that I build rely on. So like the velocity of the initial attack, but then there's, after you're pressing it, you can lean in and out of it. And so then that also lets you give this mod wheel control to other parameters. Imagine for every movie that you did, you had a couple hundred of these sort of new colors, so to speak, to paint with. I mean, that's part of, I think, what makes like a Hans score very, very unique and very, very much the thing that people kind of remember him for and remember the scores for. I think it was like my first or second day there. Head of our department at the time, he kind of pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna go meet Hans now. Like, are you gonna be cool about it, or is this gonna be are you gonna get weird?" And I mean, I was just like, "Yeah, let's go meet him." I mean, I was more like, "Okay, I'm gonna go meet my boss," not like, "Oh my God." I was just happy to be working on projects where I was getting to do real engineering work. People were gonna hear what I was doing, and maybe I'd even get my name in the credits at some point. So now, if I told you that was me sitting in a room by myself with one guitar, would you think that that's what that was? Probably not. That couldn't be done by one person at one point. But once you throw it into a sampler, everything becomes superhuman. I remember building something for him, in my first 6 months there. And it was like this very kind of like aggressive drone-y kind of sound. I remember showing Hans's head tech like, "Hey, this is what we built," and he was like checking it out, and he's like, "I don't hear like the distortion." I'm like, "Oh no, like if you listen, it's subtle, but it comes in." And he just stops and he goes, "Hans doesn't do subtle." When we did Dune, Denis Villeneuve came to some of the sampling sessions. Like I got to be involved in some of the conversations about how we were gonna do stuff, and he was very interested in it and also very like supportive. And Hans already had a vision for what he wanted to do, and it was very vocal centric. A big part of what we created were sample libraries of vocalists. So we wanted to build these virtual instruments of mysterious female voices doing these kind of chant type things. So, in order to build something like this where I can take that phrase and go, now that's not the same sound getting softer. We went to almost a whisper, and then we go to a shout. And then we kind of have a middle ground as well. So, to make something like this, where you've got this range of notes, you don't sing it once and then stretch it out in a computer and call it a day. You've got to sing it a bunch of times in a bunch of different pitches. When you're trying to write something emotional, you don't want to be like, "Oh, it's slightly there and it's slightly not." That doesn't even register, especially with something dramatic. It needs to hit you in the face, and so I guess I'd say I learned how to hit people in the face with music. I think my favorite story to tell is the vibrator piano story, where we went to an adult gift store and purchased a small a small personal massage device. We had this upright piano. We opened up the bottom so you could get to the strings. I went through the whole piano once with just the vibrator, and then I wrapped it in electric tape, which kind of like dulled the sound, and then did another pass of it, so that when you play a chord, now you've got these two layers that you can kind of go between, and so you get this expressive kind of thing where it goes from this dark, dull sound to this bright, really active sound. That's sort of like an instance where it really demonstrates what makes sampling special, because you're interacting with the sort of unpredictability and the randomness that real life offers that you still can't fully recreate inside a computer. But the idea is, how do we capture sort of every word in this language? And then how do we make it easy to speak it? Yeah, you gotta sometimes just like stop yourself and be like, wait, hold on a second. Like, yes, this is my job, this is work, I have to do this, it's my obligation or whatever. But it's like when you're going like, oh man, I gotta go work on this fucking U2 record. God. Like, that is a sentiment that very few people or no people can really relate to.
How do you want to be remembered?
I hope that, you know, whether or not you like the music that I've made or like the things that I've contributed to, I hope that the degree of honesty and, you know, perhaps even vulnerability that I try to create in talking about my experience, I hope that encourages other people to have those same thoughts and conversations and explorations with themselves. And if anything that I've done has helped someone start that process, I'd be happy with that.